Do you want to own a planet? Are you seeking mining rights on an asteroid? Has space debris fallen on your house? Well, I am Shane Cashman, your space lawyer. We have a lot of space law to cover today. Meteor sightings are picking up, and I realize that a lot of you know me from the show as the host of Inverted World, but I'm a really well-established space lawyer outside of this. That's how I make most of my money in space law. A lot of people like to ask me, what is the hardest thing about your job as a space lawyer? And it would probably be the fact that I'm a space lawyer that doesn't believe in space, but I still fight hard for your rights. I will get you those mining rights on that asteroid. If you want to own that planet, we can do it. I'm here. I want to sue NASA just as much as you guys do. You can trust me with your space treaties. I got you. Okay. I am a third generation space lawyer. Little known fact about me. But look, we have meteors over Australia, meteors over Philly, meteors over Cleveland. We just got confirmation the other day about the Philadelphia one. I saw people saying that they heard a giant sonic boom in the sky over Philly. And, you know, I have some sources within the space community, and they were all confirming the fact that, yes, there was a meteor, allegedly a meteor over Philadelphia. I say allegedly because we don't know what is going on, okay? We are being told they're meteors. We're told they're comets. I don't know what to believe, guys. I know that there are people out there making meteors. You say, oh, that sounds crazy. We're going to go over it. It's part of my lawsuit that I've been working on. I'm going to share two different lawsuits that I have been working on since the recent rash of meteors. And I have two different, very distinct, very serious lawsuits that I'm working on right now. Because just don't tell anybody. But I am representing the woman who had a alleged meteor fall through her house in Houston. I say alleged again because I believe it's something else. I believe we're dealing with two separate scenarios. Look, I've sent it out for tests to see exactly where this rock, whatever it is, came from, because it could be a few different things that we're dealing with here. And and I go out to space law parties. There's all these space law functions, and they're like, oh, Cashman and Cashman, space law. At your service, but this is kind of out of your jurisdiction. This isn't really space law jurisdiction, they say. And they're right. If they're just reading the headlines and believing what they're seeing only in the headlines or on the mainstream news, as a space lawyer, you'd actually handle a case like this rarely, if ever, right? Because we're all looking at it as if it's a natural meteor, quote unquote space object, and we would treat it like any other falling object claim, which would fall under homeowners insurance, and that's more of a terrestrial path that people would take when it comes to being hit by such a debris. But I don't think this was a meteor. So these two lawsuits I'm working on right now, we're not going to tell anybody about. This is just between us. I'm suing NASA. I'm preparing to sue NASA, and I'm preparing to maybe sue Japan. Okay. I'm not sure which one is responsible yet, but I am pretty sure that what they're saying is a meteor is fake. I have had the tests all run, and I've come back with two conclusions that I'm working on, waiting on a few more tests. But the first, I don't know if you saw this press release that's been out there since yesterday, but it's about me and my illustrious career as a space lawyer, galactically revered space lawyer. Space lawyer holds NASA accountable for the DART debris damage. Okay, so there was a loud crash through a roof. You might have heard it. It wasn't random. Tests show it could be debris from NASA's 2022 DART mission, where a probe slammed into Dimorphos to test asteroid deflection. This was real. I don't know if you guys were covering it. This was really big in the space community. The hit blasted a massive plume, tons of rock flying out, and some orbits might have looped back to Earth. Under the liability convention, which is big in space law, we'll cover that. If it's a U.S. launched probe or space object that has caused this debris, absolute liability will apply to that state which launched it, to that governing body which launched it, and that is under space law. It has been written. That's under the Space Treaty of 1972, the Liability Convention. People keep signing on. We have corporations signing on to it now because we've corporatized space. But NASA pays for surface damage, so no "we meant well" excuse. Okay, Article 2 says launching states cover hits. That's a full stop right there. We've got lab matches, plume photos, trajectory proof. This isn't blame. It's just law, people. DART proved we can nudge threats. That's great. But if it rains rubble on homes, someone owes. Okay? This is what I'm telling my clients, and they believe me. If this is the path we go, it could be that we do both these lawsuits at the same time. I can handle it. Let's keep space defense safe. I want to make space safe again. Okay? All right, but this is the deal. They're going to come back and say, you can't prove. This is what NASA's going to come back and say, you can't prove that this debris is from Dimorphos. Well, neither can they. They can't prove it's Dimorphos either. But they went up there. If you guys don't know about DART, they went up to space. They went up to fake space. They sent this rocket up there, and they were like, we're going to blow up this little moon. They call it a moonlet. I don't like using those words. Little moons prefer to be called little moons. They don't like being called moonlets. It's a lot like the dwarf midget debate, but in fake space. This is the kind of stuff I have to deal with. Those are a whole other law when it comes to space law language. But we blew up a moonlet. Yeah, that's right. I used it. I'll say what I want. I'm a space lawyer. So let's get into the space liability, but first let's just look up DART. So I want you guys to have a better understanding of the DART program, and there are precedents. If you think this is all ridiculous, there are precedents that I am pulling from as I prepare this case against NASA and the DART program. Let's see here. DART, for those who don't know, is an acronym, of course. You know how they love their acronyms. NASA's the same place that just, was it 2 years ago now? Wow, 2 years ago. We as in NASA sent rockets towards the eclipse in April, and we named those rockets after the god of chaos, because NASA's not a satanic corporation, whatever corporation or function of the government. DART stands for Double Asteroid Redirection Test. So I'm going to try to refrain, but I'm not going to. That is also, we like to call it in space law, 2 asteroids, 1 rocket. So what was DART? And they wanted to demonstrate, this is what their goal was, to demonstrate asteroid deflection with a kinetic impactor. This happened in November 23 in the year of 2021. And it was aboard a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. A lot of people see a lot of SpaceX launches from Vandenberg. So what they did was they blasted this little moon, this little itty bitty moon, with the rocket and exploded it. It didn't fully obliterate it, but it caused a debris field that they said would actually. I'm reading this wrong. They launched it in 2021. It hit in September 26, 2022, just to be clear. So it took a while for that to get this fake space, for them to get the technology correct on the green screen and the CGI to create this. But don't tell my client this. This debris, they said, was going to hit us in a few years. Some people speculate next year. Some people speculate 2028, just in time for the next general election. But as we are seeing more and more meteors streaking across the sky and causing these sonic booms, I think something up. I think something is up. I don't think what they're telling us is the full story. And what I think is happening here is, my defendant here I'm going up against NASA, the National Aeronautics Space Administration. That's of the United States, of course. And this is what I'm dealing with here is my brief in support of a complaint for damages under the 1972 Liability Convention. So last month, last week, a fragment ejected from NASA's double asteroid redirection test mission impacting Dimorphos on September 26, 2022. It re-entered Earth's atmosphere and struck plaintiff's residence, that's my client, causing structural damage and emotional stress. The emotional stress that doesn't just come from, oh my goodness, I got to fix my roof. It's also the scrutiny, the press, the social media, people attacking her. NASA has bots going after her. This is a really big deal for my client and the emotional distress that she's dealing with. The DART spacecraft and its resulting ejecta, that's what we call it, qualify as a space object per Article 1 of the Convention on International Liability for Damage Caused by Space Objects. Again, that was 1972. My father worked on that. In that convention. He's one of the signees. The United States, as the launching state, bears absolute liability under Article 2 for damage on Earth's surface, no fault required. So my evidence includes forensic analysis confirming asteroidal origin. Its silicates are matching Dimorphos' S-shape composition. I got something. You see, I do have this here. A piece of Dimorphos. You can see that this is what they call the S-type composition. Trajectory modeling from NASA ESA data linking to post-impact plume. Eyewitness, fireball, and radar tracks. I got a lot of people lined up. And okay, don't tell. I have someone inside NASA that's willing to help too, a whistleblower who's coming forward. The impact created millions of tons of debris, some potentially Earth crossing over years, making ground strike foreseeable under strict liability. No exemptions apply here. Plaintiff committed no gross negligence. That's under as part of Article 6. Mission was not sovereign. Act immune from treaty. Cosmos 954 precedent shows even defense ops pay. It's true. Planetary defense, I'm putting that in quotes, intent does not offset concrete harm. And Article 9, no, I'm sorry, it's Article 12, actually. I wrote that wrong here. It's Article 12 demands equitable, full compensation. Relief is sought, restitution for repairs, loss of use, distress, costs, fees. She's got to pay me, so NASA's got to pay her to pay me. Jurisdiction via treaty ratification, U.S. 1973, and federal question. So the that 1972 Convention on International Liability, I got pictures of my father there signing it. It was signed on March 29th. And it was all about who pays, and that's, when this happens, when space junk flies down or something that was caused by a launching state to make debris that can then impact Earth. Now, NASA will come back. I've heard this from some of their lawyers. They'll say, well, we blew up Dimorphos to redirect its path, and we saved Earth. So how dare you sue us for a little impact? No one got hurt. Well, it depends how you define hurt, because my client is emotionally unwell right now, seeking lots of therapy, and also has to repair this roof, which is a lot of money. She had solar panels, so we just went through solar panels. This is a lot that's going into this. And I'll be open with what I'm going to be saying now to NASA, and they could use this, but it's true. How do you know you even saved Earth? This is like the whole Fauci debate. Get vaccinated, you save grandma's life. We saved so many lives with vaccinations. How did you calibrate that? I shouldn't be tapping my Dimorphos debris against the table here, but it's okay. I've got a lot of this in the background. You can't see it, but I have a whole closet filled with debris, fake and real. But you can't prove that you saved Earth. You, NASA, are reckless. We all know this. You were founded on a bed of lies, and I want to put an end to it. I'd like to have access to all of your emails. I think that's only right. And we're going to put an end to programs like DART. And I think you're causing extreme harm to the American people and to the people of the world. And someone needs to be held accountable. And I believe you are one of possibly two issues here just in Houston. I've got other people. I mean, look, let me pull up. You want to see some of my other clients? Let me pull up something really quick. Welcome back, guys. Anyway, I hope you all are well. Thank you guys for being here. I know typically we have like a lot of fun, but this is a more serious episode. I obviously came right here from my space law office. Just thinking like, you know what, we should cover this for the show. It is a good intersection here. And perhaps someone out there does want to own a planet, does want to have mining rights on an asteroid. That means you want to keep the stuff you mine on that asteroid. This is a big deal up there. In 72, height of the Cold War, all these countries came together despite all being afraid of nuking one another. And they're like, all right, look, we don't want to nuke each other, or do we? At least on this planet. We might want to nuke each other. Okay, we want to nuke each other on planet Earth, but can we just be chill in space? Can we be chill in space? Do we all believe in space? We're just going to pretend we believe in space, and we're going to make a treaty here so we can all just get along, and no one can own a planet. Okay, Russia? Okay, Reagan? No, you can't own that planet. And so everyone got together and did this whole space treaty in starting in the early 70s on, what you can do in space. No war in space. We're going to get along. You can't just conquer a planet. And this is all stuff that's going to be going out of the window soon, as Elon will be seeking to make amendments in the treaty so he can own Mars. This is a little known fact. It's happening right now. It's in the pipeline. It'll probably be in Supreme Court within a year. Elon will seek ownership of Mars. He will claim heir status, because of his being a descendant of an ancient breakaway civilization that did go to Mars. So that's going to be a huge thing that will be making headlines, I'd imagine, very soon. I will not be a part of that lawsuit. As far as I know, got a great friend on that case. I don't want to see Mars be owned by Elon, but it's tough. It's a really tough situation, okay? So this is another one of my clients that I am working on right now. This is a 2-year-old case that we've been really fighting after for a while. It's a Florida family that's been suing NASA after a piece of space debris crashed through their home. So you see there's another precedent. I know we talked about the Cosmos one, but there's also this family in Florida. God bless their hearts. Really putting up with a lot right now. We had a metallic piece of space debris that belonged to NASA. It said NASA right on it, had the barcode and everything, a signature from Buzz Aldrin, I think. It fell to Earth and tore through their home in Naples, Florida. That was at the beginning of 2024, and they reached out to me. They saw I have a billboard down there that they saw, CASHMAN and CASHMAN Space Law, and they hit me up, and I said, this is an important one. We're going to do it. So we're coming up on the 2-year anniversary. It was the March incident was a startling, rare instance of man-made material from orbit making its way back to our planet's surface, intact and landing in a populated area, and it raised questions about who is responsible when space debris causes damage on Earth. That's why we have space law. This is why I'm a space lawyer. It's going to get crazier. My job's going to get crazier now with all the drones happening. UFO disclosure, whatever that means, ancient breakaway civilizations revealing themselves, coming back to own property that they said owns to them. So you imagine Gaza or Ukraine, but now with space involved, and Earth is Gaza. I'm telling you. So this was my one of my partners in the law firm gave this statement to NPR. They said, space debris is a real and serious issue because of the increase in space traffic in recent years. And my partner said, my clients are seeking adequate compensation to account for their stress and impact that this event had on their lives. So I should tell you that they have a 19-year-old son of the homeowner. The homeowner, his name is Alejandro Otero. You can look up this case, very real. I am definitely working on their behalf. Absolutely. So his son was in the house at the time, which was really, really crazy. And he was just a few rooms away from the impact, and thankfully unharmed. And they are great. I can tell you this family is grateful that no one sustained physical injuries from this incident. But a near-miss situation such as this could have been catastrophic. So my claim against NASA, which I did file, what was this? I guess April 2 years ago, seeks damages including non-insured property damage loss, emotional and mental anguish, and other damages. I see so many parallels with this case, with my client in Houston, what they're going through. And that's why I have a lot of knowledge being like, okay, I don't think this is a meteor. I think the meteor story is a cover-up for, they're trying to save NASA. NASA's getting a lot of cuts. Doge was ripping through them. And there's a lot of SpaceX beef with NASA. And, NASA's trying really hard. So a lot of journalists are on NASA's side. A lot of journalists still believe in space. And a lot of journalists, they say, oh, I don't like Nazis, but their favorite thing is NASA, which was funded by Nazis. Started by Nazis, not funded by Nazis. Started by Nazis. The great Werner von Braun, who has amazing videos up there from Disney. He understood fake space. We talked about him in the firmament the other day. But the journalists are clearly on the side of NASA. And so when they create these stories, what they're doing is creating the illusion that this is a natural thing and has nothing to do with man-made debris or the DART mission or any other one of NASA's crazy experiments. But we can clearly see, that it's either the things that are falling to Earth and impacting people's homes are things that they hit, like dimorphos, the moonlet. I know they don't like that word, but we try to say little moon, but it's tough. I've been saying moonlet since 84, and it's really hard to change the way you talk sometimes. In an email, NASA Public Affairs Officer Jimmy Russell said it would not be appropriate for NASA to comment on a pending claim. But the agency did say in a blog post in April that a space object recovered from the Oteros' home was involved in a March 2021 operation aboard the International Space Station. At the time, NASA released a 5,800-pound cargo pallet of old nickel hydride batteries that it expected to orbit Earth for 2 to 4 years before burning up in the atmosphere. But the agency said it believes the material that landed in Florida was a 1.6-pound metal alloy stanchion from NASA flight support equipment. NASA remains committed to responsibly operating in low Earth orbit and mitigating as much risk as possible to protect people on Earth when space hardware must be released, the agency said in 2 Aprils ago. But I think NASA will be held responsible for damage caused by its space debris and in any other country under the international agreement known as the Space Liability Convention. And then we have this, I have this from Mark Sundahl, who is a space law expert. Now, the thing with him is that he's like one of these NPR guys. He's a space law expert. He's not a space lawyer. I'm a space lawyer. Okay. I have a degree in space law. I have a degree in divinity and a degree in space law. Mark is just a space law expert. He just reads Wikipedia pages, but he told NPR that the law is less clear when material belonging to NASA lands on U.S. soil, making it a domestic legal issue. Well, I think this is just this is a cut and dry case. I mean, he's deflecting here. I know that he's part of NASA. He's on the payroll. He believes in the moon and all this stuff. So, but that's okay. NPR is allowed to include him in there. Who am I other than your humble space lawyer from CASHMAN and CASHMAN? But this is my other thing, is what I'm starting to see with this meteor narrative that's bothering me. Just checking on time here. I'm expecting a few phone calls over some space debris lawsuits that I also got in the back burner. There are people right now creating man-made meteors. They're creating meteors, and they think they can get away with this, and they can't. I don't know if you've heard of ALE, A-L-E, the company. It's a Japanese startup, but I'm also working on a lawsuit against them. I believe that they've been involved with some debris that's been found across the nation. You remember the Chinese space balloon didn't really fall under my jurisdiction, as weather balloon rather. That's what they said it was. I didn't get that case. I tried, but I think the Japanese are trying to create or help accelerate the meteor narrative, and I think I've caught them dead to rights. But this is a press release that I have going out today in all the papers, in like the New York Times and Washington Post and all that stuff. This is very real. Space lawyer sues Japanese startup ALE over fake shooting star debris. So It might not be nature. It could be a rogue pellet from ALE's artificial meteor show meant to sparkle harmlessly from orbit. Tokyo-based Astro Live Experiences, that's ALE, launches tiny metal balls to create on-demand fireworks, visible streaks at 400 kilometers up. But what if one survives re-entry? Does no one think about this? Does no one care? Under the liability convention, which you all know about now, Japan pays absolute liability. No, we designed it safe defense. Nah, sorry, ALE. Not happening. I'm suing Japan. Article 2 launching state covers ground damage. We've got alloy matches, burn trail proof, photos of the hole, okay? This isn't fun. It's law, all right? Just like with NASA. I don't do this for fun. I do this because this is law, and I got to protect people. I got to make space safe again. ALE's pellets are space objects. If they hit homes, someone owes money. Their shows do sound pretty cool, though. Glowing trails over cities, but ground risk is very real. Let's hold space entertainment accountable before more ceilings cave. Look, we got to be safe with this stuff. I don't like being all willy-nilly, you know. It's like the same with CERN. We were talking about CERN yesterday. These people think they can just go have fun in the sky, you know, geoengineering, seeding clouds, blocking the sun. We got to think, you know, just above that, but below the firmament, of course, but just below the firmament, whatever part of space that is. And they're trying to now create meteor showers. Is this a good idea? Do you think we should be creating meteor showers? I don't. You know, it seems like it's a way to build up to Blue Beam. And perhaps this is one way. And I think ALE is just one type of company doing this. I think we have definitely got people, probably got bigger and better meteors that they're building here. Did you guys, speaking of, a little side quest real quick, did you see the video? I think it's real, but who knows these days, of the drone with the sword attached to the front that can like just tear right through you at very high speeds? If it was a real video, it was pretty crazy. They had like a mannequin, or a dummy rather, and they sent this drone flying super fast right through. It blew this guy up, but then it was the drone and sword were still intact. It reminded me of early, just to go back to dolphins really quick. I know dolphins don't really fall under my law practice purview yet. I'm trying, if we can redefine space, because, I believe real space is the ocean. Ocean is real space. Then I'd go after dolphins. But I need everyone to get on board with the fact that the ocean is real space. But anyway, do you know the Russians were this is true. This is real life. The Soviets, rather, were putting hypodermic needles filled with poison onto the noses of dolphins and teaching the dolphins to kill people that way. So the blunt force of getting hit by the dolphin, they said, would perhaps have killed the person already, but then on top of that, they were getting injected with whatever poison they put on the hypodermic needles. So that's a real thing. But my defendant here is Astro Live Experiences and the government of Japan. I'm just going to sue Japan. Why not? And it's it's in support of complaint for damages under the 1972 Liability Convention. I have multiple people around the country and someone in Ohio who believes, and as do I, that a part of these fake meteors fell down, not a real meteor, and it wasn't space debris. It wasn't some NASA space junk. This seems to be like a man-made situation, like a tiny boogosphere, which is also back in the news. If you want, you can go pay $50, I guess, to go see Stephen Greer talk about how he believes the boogosphere is 26,000 years old, a year that doesn't exist. Numbers are fake. But anyway, ALE's orbital entertainment satellite launch. I'm just going to say this out loud. I've been working on this, and I was like, you know what? I should be more open about my job, my outside of this as a space lawyer. And it helps me to hear it out loud, too. And I know ALE might be listening. NASA might be listening. They typically are. But let's get into it anyway. We'll see what they come back with. ALE's orbital entertainment satellite launched under Japanese authority qualifies as a space object per Article 1. That's in C of the Convention of the International Liability for Damage Caused by Space Objects. Japan, as the launching state, bears absolute liability under Article 2. For any surface damage, no fault or negligence required. So I do have work on forensic metallurgy, matching Ailes engineered alloy, which is typically the examples I've seen: aluminum, lithium, trajectory data aligning with controlled release from orbit, eyewitness fireball consistent with failed burnup. Ailes design claims pellets vanish harmlessly at 60 to 80 kilometers altitude, yet survival here proves breach of safety assumptions, triggering strict liability. I believe more of these fall to Earth than they're willing to admit. Plaintiff not grossly negligent, that's under Article 6. Entertainment ops not sovereign immunity. Treaty applies equally to private and commercial launches. Space fireworks, intent offers no offset. Article 12 demands full equitable compensation. So again, I'm looking for restitution for repairs, loss of use, distress, punitive if foreseeable risk ignored, costs, fees, you name it. Jurisdiction via treaty. Japan ratified 1983, and diversity. So that is what I'm looking for, and I don't even know if I want to get into this next one. This is big, but we're in the age of disclosure. Another one of my clients here. If you guys, this is serious, okay? So I'm like, do I want to do this? This is getting pretty in the weeds now with space law. But I have clients that say that they own Dimorphos. They own the little moon. And according to the Outer Space Treaty, you can't, there's no sovereignty. You can't just say, I own this rock in space. And then, so, in the talks we've been having behind closed doors, I shouldn't be saying this out loud, but, here I am anyway, trying to give you a little more insight into space law, how this all works, what it looks like. They're like, the people who are my clients, and this is coming from NASA now, and the U.S. government, the people who are claiming they own Dimorphos, again, my clients, they're saying they're aliens and they have no right to the laws and rights of this planet, and that no one can own something in space. The problem is, and this is where it's getting really, really sticky, and where you see when disclosure starts coming out, and this is kind of going to tie into last year's thesis that came out of Harvard about the cryptoterrestrial hypothesis, which is about us being open to ancient breakaway civilization, something I do believe in. My clients claim, and I've seen evidence, they claim to be descendants of a ancient breakaway civilization, and that Dimorphos is one of their vessels. And so now I have to go through this whole thing with the government and NASA, because my clients feel like they were attacked. It was an unprovoked attack. They weren't heading towards Earth. They weren't going to hit it. NASA's totally lying. Oh, we saved planet Earth from Dimorphos. They had no reason to hit it. They hit it just, so they said they hit it to steer it away from Earth. We believe they were trying to get rid of the evidence of ancient breakaway civilization. Now, for those who don't know, there are a lot of warring ancient breakaway civilizations. There's not just one, and they come from different times, and there's different lineages. Some are still frozen up there in outer space, in just below the firmament here, in just what looks like a rock. And they'll thaw soon, and they'll come down, and I might have to do some of that space immigration law, because they have to get here legally. Even though they were here before, they got to get here legally. But look, I think it sounds like it's speculative, but I'm dealing with real life situations here of people who claim to have been from Earth, and they left Earth, and they're coming back, and they want accountability for damages done. And you can't even imagine the emotional stress they went through to get here. So if you forgot about the Harvard cryptoterrestrial paper, it's a good one. It was written, to get people, to prepare people for the possibility that perhaps we are living in a world where there are people who are descendants from ancient breakaway civilizations. And I will tell you again and again, I think Elon Musk is one of those people. I mean, it's interesting. But back to ale and Japan. Just a little more on them. I think it is interesting. They are a space tech pioneer, is what they are labeled as, and they plan to launch their next thing called Sky Canvas, which is a satellite into orbit, and they are inviting science enthusiasts to the new Sky Canvas Community Club. Like I've been telling you for years, the sky is a green screen. So now we're looking at green screens on top of green screens. Space technology company ALE today announced its plans to launch the Sky Canvas. It's a major step forward, they say, in the world's first human-made shooting star project, and the first step towards ALE realizing its ambition to usher in a new era of sustainable space entertainment. That's right. It says that's what they're doing. Sustainable space entertainment. You got to shut this down, people. Let me know in the comments, are you opposed or do you approve of sustainable space entertainment? Should we be creating fake shooting stars? Do we need this? I think the consequences outweigh any positives here. And I've seen the emotional distress that this can cause on people when one of their little metallic orbs fall out of the sky and crash through your ceiling. But they say here they're going to boost global space business, which as a space lawyer wouldn't be so bad, get a little more business that way, a little more contracts. And it will advance essential climate science research and education. This new ALE-3 satellite scheduled to launch in 2024, so it's up there already, will gather climate information in the mesosphere, the layer of the Earth's atmosphere directly above the stratosphere and below the thermosphere. So basically below the firmament. Atmospheric data gathered in the mesosphere has the potential to provide valuable insights into Earth's climate. I don't know, guys. I'm not a fan. I am not a fan. So we know about DART. I'm suing NASA. I'm suing Japan. And I'm going to win. I'm going to shut down Japan, and I'm going to shut down NASA. And I wanted to bring this up because there's been a lot of talk about ancient breakaway civilizations. Let me just want to make sure I got the right thing here. So I have this from thedebrief.org. This cannot be possible. This is just from a few days ago. This cannot be possible how an ancient anomaly led scientists to discover a 2 billion year old nuclear reactor in Africa. Now, like I always say with these stories, I think there's something possible to them, but I'll disagree with the numbers. I don't believe in 2 billion, okay? When it comes to age. I'm laughing, but it's because I think it's ridiculous. The natural world is full of curiosities, this writer says. That's one reason why in the 1970s a discovery seemed so out of place, a sample of uranium ore from an ancient African mine that didn't match the signature of natural material that scientists were briefly faced with, having to consider the unthinkable. Could there have been an earlier civilization that harnessed the power of the atom on planet Earth? Such questions were among those the French scientist Francis Perrin and his colleagues may have considered in 1972 before realizing they had uncovered evidence of something nearly as remarkable. Thanks to a quirk of nature, a nuclear reaction occurred on Earth 2 billion years ago under what had been entirely natural circumstances. I believe that we've had technologically advanced civilizations on this planet before. I believe that's happened within a span of 6,000 or so years. I don't need this billions and billions of years. Carbon dating is ridiculous to me. I just don't trust the science. I'm sorry about that. Unless it comes to space law and helps me in my cases. But I think there's something to this story, and I find it fascinating that as we are moving towards this disclosure narrative, I think one of the more real possibilities coming out of that will be people seeing that maybe there were ancient civilizations that were as technologically advanced as us, maybe in different ways, and that perhaps they broke away before some catastrophic event and were able to have descendants, pass down knowledge. I think about it a lot when I think about a Rothschilds type dynasty and that family and passing down that wealth and power, and how we can date back to, as far as we know, them funding both sides of the Napoleonic Wars and manufacturing conflict, choosing who wins and who dies, and that is just history. That is just human history. And they're just one family. And that's one example of that one family, because they've clearly done it many times, and they've been involved in the creation of Israel. And, that's a whole other issue, right? We're dealing with Ukraine and Israel and maybe Cuba next. We're seeing Cuba being totally blacked out, no power. I imagine we're going to take over Cuba at some point. Anyway, it began with the discovery of an anomaly in uranium ore from a mine near Oklo, Gabon. Perrin's team noticed that this is the French guy, that one sample of the material contained slightly less uranium than would be expected in natural deposits. The existing scientific information available to researchers at the time clearly detailed the constant ratio of radioactive uranium within ore. Yet the peculiar sample from the Oklo mine seemed to point to something else entirely. This cannot be possible, Perrin thought at the time. Pondering the odd discovery, even a minuscule amount of missing uranium-235 seemed to indicate that some of the isotopes had been forced to divide, which under modern conditions on Earth can only occur one way, through a nuclear reaction. The implications were obvious and meant one of two possibilities, one of which was so remarkable that it, very much like the anomalous sample now in the possession of Perrin and his colleagues at a nuclear fuel processing plant in France, seemed impossible. Yet how could this be explained naturally? If all examples of natural uranium known to exist, even those present on the lunar surface or in ancient meteorites, contain precisely 0.720% of this isotope, Perrin and his colleagues were left to consider not only the possibility that the uranium ore had undergone artificial fission, but also how some natural version of the same process might work. With time and further analysis, the latter proved true, and Perrin and his team's conclusion revealed one of the most remarkable discoveries ever made in the natural world. In their findings, Perrin and his colleagues discovered evidence of fission products in the ore and veritable fingerprints of a natural sample of uranium ore that had undergone fission. There was no other explanation, said the noted French geologist. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that guy's name. Okay, Ludovich, curator of the meteorite collection of the Impactite collection at the Natural History Museum in Vienna, Austria. And he said that in a statement in 2019. After more studies, including on-site examinations, Fier said Perrin and his colleagues had proven that the uranium ore had gone through fission on its own. But what did this all mean? Fundamentally, the conditions required for this to occur meant that at some point around 2 billion years ago, uranium deposits in Western Africa near modern-day Gabon would have had to contain enough uranium-235 to achieve critical mass. Add to this another key component, the presence of water, which would have been needed as a cooling agent, slowing neutrons, allowing atom splitting to take place, and facilitating controlled fission. Peter Woods, an Australian geoscientist who formerly led uranium production at the International Atomic Energy Agency, compared the natural processes at Oklo 2 billion years ago to a modern human-built light water nuclear reactor. He says the water acted in Oklo as a moderator, absorbing the neutrons, controlling the chain reaction. But it's still an enigma. At the time the natural fission would have occurred, there would have been enough uranium to produce thick, large deposits that would have facilitated the process and preserved the ancient natural reactor. Having occurred once, it is possible that other natural reactors existed in various parts of the world under similar environmental conditions, although they were either destroyed over time or remain undiscovered. What do you guys think? I know I've asked you before about your thoughts on the age of Earth. A lot of people out there agree with me. I'm around 6,000 years. A lot of people say millions. Some people say billions. Some people say we're in a simulation. Well, then how old is a simulation? How old is a simulator? As we're also talking about things falling from the sky, and all these meteors that we're seeing allegedly and hearing, and oh yeah. Hold on. I have another sample here from space law. So Dimorphos, this is a piece from Krypton after it exploded. A client gave that to me. Very nice stuff. But I was thinking about throughout history, we're leading up to this crazy time. Yesterday we were talking about how like discombobulator to discombobulate is like the word of the year so far. And we're all being discombobulated. And how we're seeing a lot of these things as reality just seems to be falling apart, which happens. It's a generational thing. And I was reminded of the 1861 comet that flew across the skies as we were preparing for Civil War. The Great Comet of 1861 was formally designated as C1861J1 or 18612. I don't know why they did that. I wasn't around for space law back then, and the people who were and the scientists coming up with all that, but it was a long period comet that was visible to the naked eye for approximately, this is serious, 3 months. I've looked through a lot of different writings from people back then who all talked about it. Even Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln said he saw it. That haunted man. You guys know the story about Lincoln. He had a dream that we can now say in retrospect maybe it was about his assassination, but it was crazy dream. He dreamt that he was walking around the White House and came into a room where there were 2 guards and a body lying down, and the body was a corpse. And in his dream, he took the corpse was covered with a blanket or a sheet, and he lifted the sheet and saw the face, but didn't recognize the face. It was a shaven face, and but he thought it was him. He was scared it was him, but then he was relieved it wasn't when he saw a shaved face. That's how the story goes. He wrote about it. And then the crazy thing is, after he was killed, they did shave his face. So perhaps he did see that. And then there's the whole grisly story of, speaking of traveling across the country, they toured his body, afterwards on his way to be buried, and it started to decompose. And there was a team of people on that train trying to keep him looking okay, which back then, not easy. Anyway, the Great Comet of 1861, sometimes it's called the War Comet. I believe I've also written about this in like the first or second chapter of the second book of the Inverted World series. It was discovered by John Tebbit of Windsor. You know what? I have a quote here from John. Let me find this one because I actually like that quote. I hope I still have it. But John saw it, and while I'm looking for this quote, he, they're seeing something, this comet that is going across the sky, and it's so close and so big that it's according to these people, various reports, various accounts, it is casting a shadow on the Earth. So people are seeing this giant like fireball, this comet, and it's just casting a shadow. And you imagine, as like now, we are leading up to a real time of conflict. I mean, we are in a time of conflict right now, no doubt about it. But it's like, is it going somewhere else? Is it getting crazier? Is this a harbinger of doom? The North, people in the North, when they saw the Great Comet, they were thinking this is like a sign of hope for us to win this war, that Lincoln will persevere. And there are images out there from back then of them drawing Lincoln's face as the comet streaking through the sky. Other people use it to say it was a reflection of Jefferson Davis kind of stumbling through the sky. So everyone was using it as their own way to interpret the times. But overall, it was a sign of something foreboding. The Civil War going down, mass unrest, about to have all these seances. We talked about that yesterday. Mary Todd Lincoln having all these seances in the White House. So it was a very interesting time, much like now, where, war everywhere. War is happening everywhere right now. And the very fabric of reality is being deconstructed because of, you can say postmodernism, but it's also social media, it's the internet, it's the tech age, the tech vampires. We are redefining humanity. I don't think we should, but we are. And we're building robots. We're sending robots out onto the front lines of Ukraine. And things are getting really crazy out there. So everyone's looking at this stuff and having a different interpretation. But again, overall, it seems to be some sort of sign that something interesting or bad is about to happen. I don't see a lot of people saying this is a good sign with our meteors that we're seeing, whatever it is, whether it's the NASA or the ale from Japan that I have to sue, or if it's actually maybe a real rock flying through the sky all of a sudden, and we're all seeing them all of a sudden. Maybe it's part of Three Eye Atlas. Haven't even discussed that in a little bit. But something is surely going on right here. So John Tebbit, the first guy to write about it. I mean, who knows how do you know the first person to see it? He's just the first person to say he saw it and someone recorded it. He said it lit up the sky, visible with the naked eye, and obviously it stunned people, the soldiers in their camps, people around the country. It went around the world, but in this country, the North saw it as a sign of Union triumph, and in the South, they were cheering. Some people were using it to cheer on for the Confederacy the same way the North was using it to cheer on themselves. One Union private, Charles Johnson, wrote in his journal how it hung there like a lantern while cannon fire echoed nearby. And according to him, that he was half joking that it got fed up with our mess and left, with its tail between its legs, because the comet allegedly had a really long tail. So it wasn't just like this ball of fire going through the sky. It was a very long tail attached to it. I don't know, maybe it was a dragon, a Civil War dragon. But yeah, Lincoln also was very much into astronomy. Astronomy was very big back then. There were people trying to make sense of whatever was up there, and he did love staring at the sky, so it was very possible he was looking at this too. I mean, I think everyone was. It was impossible not to. Imagine for 3 months something is just in the sky. Was it a comet though? Or was it, as I'm rereading this, I'm like, was it an ancient breakaway civilization just traveling by, checking things out? Kind of like, it was making me think of the stories that, we a lot of reports lately from Air Force vets, whether we believe them or not. Some of them are like, or some former CIA, whatever that means. Well, I know what it means. It means that you're still CIA. They're just using you as like an Operation Mockingbird siphon into the narrative as we get ready for UFO disclosure. But anyway, they're like, well, the UFOs were appearing and they turned off our nuclear warheads. They turned off our nuclear capabilities. So they want to save us. See, we can't be afraid of them. We're trying to do disclosure now. We don't want you to be afraid. They're here to help us. Or they're just here to observe, And maybe that's what was going on with the war comet. Maybe it was a vessel. And they were just like checking out Earth before like mass bloodshed. Because it was mass bloodshed. I visit the Antietam battlefield from time to time. One of the bloodiest battles in the Civil War, and I mean, thousands and thousands of dead bodies on these beautiful fields. It's a great place. If you haven't gone, like Gettysburg is great. If you haven't been to Antietam, highly recommend it. It's just so beautiful. Go in the summer. Easy for families. Good for strollers if you got the real young ones. And it's also good to teach kids how to ride a bike or have them scooter around there. It's fairly safe and good history. And I haven't taken like an official tour there. I just like walking around when I can. And it's just insane to think about the amount of dead people in that field, how horrible that is. And then like the surrounding areas, all the old homes, all the old buildings that have been there, since that time or before, that were just turned overnight into hospitals, and all the limbs that were sawed off with their bone saws. I know a grave digger in the area, and he's a fourth generation grave digger. He's been digging graves since he was 15, maybe younger actually. I think it was 13. And he's like, I've uncovered some mass graves, but they're not mass graves. They were mass graves of limbs from Antietam. And just like, just a lot of arms, a lot of legs, and in a hole. And, because his job sometimes is to go see if people think they want to build there. So we think maybe there was a grave site here, but it's so old it's hard to tell. Go send him out there with his team and see what they can do. And he's found some of that. He's got crazy stories. I wrote a whole profile on him for the county highway, which is it's a newspaper, so you can only get it in a newspaper. But yeah, let's see here. I did have some other examples here. Where are we? Oh yeah, back to the war comet. So June 29th, 1861. I just want to make sure we're good on time here. No callers yet, so apologies if I don't get any today. But hopefully we get some tomorrow. Tomorrow, I believe, is Wednesday, unless something happens, and unless the timeline switches again. But and then Thursday I have a guest, so probably won't do calls Thursday. Just have the guest on. It's gonna be a lot of fun. But I'm gonna sit and see if anyone else is calling in. And in the meantime, let's look back at the war comet. I just can't help but think about, time is cyclical. Human nature is cyclical. And so we're always looking at things. I mean, we're always seeing stuff in the sky, but we can't help but gauge, the way we interpret these things as we are on what appears to be like a cliff into some new unprecedented territory. Is it really unprecedented if it's cyclical though? Not really, but it's always different. And it's our first time, right? Although if you're like my age, I'll be 41 next month. We've just been living through psyops and fear rituals forever. I guess every generation could say that, but we've had some real doozies. I mean, like 9/11, Oklahoma City bombing. It doesn't stop. All the wars, WMDs, we've lived through it all. COVID was great. But, my grandparents were raised in families during the 60s, and they just had like a string of assassinations. So that's why I say like it's cyclical. I don't even know if this quote is real, but they say Mark Twain said, "History doesn't repeat, it rhymes." Let's just look that up really quick. I always think that he said it, but it's like everything. It's like my favorite quote. Abraham Lincoln once said, "Don't believe everything you see on the internet." Mark Twain is often misquoted regarding history repeating itself. He actually stated, "History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes." Okay, so he did. That's good. This suggests that while events may not repeat exactly, similar patterns can emerge. Okay, and shout out to Mark Twain, Samuel Clemens. It was nice of him to. So I grew up near Goshen, New York. And I know we've got some people out there who live near Goshen or live in Goshen, actually. So shout out to you guys. When I was a furniture mover, I was in Goshen all the time. A lot of old historical places there, and we mostly dealt with historical stuff. I just like ripped the headphone jack out of here. Hopefully this is still recording and you can hear me. Ulysses S. Grant lived in Goshen for a while, and right on the racetrack, there's a horse racetrack there, and he was like dying and poor after being president, after winning the war, and Twain convinced him to write his memoirs. I know I'm tying a lot of crazy stuff in right now, moving all over the place, but like I think he helped him make money for his family, and Ulysses was, I believe, dying of like mouth cancer. And that's a whole other crazy thing is, after he won the Civil War, everyone was giving him cigars. And so people say that the cigars might have given him the cancer. Twain was a close personal friend of Grant and used his fame and talent to promote the books. Understanding the sales of the book would restore the Grant family's finances and provide for his widow. So yeah, that's what happened. Twain created a unique marketing system designed to reach millions of veterans with a patriotic appeal, just as the famous general's death was being mourned. So I always thought that was a good thing, I think the Civil War is way more complex than we've been taught. Having spent a lot of time in the South, look, there's really bad people on both sides. That's just the truth. And, I grew up near West Point where it gave birth to the generals on all sides. Almost all of them. Obviously not Lincoln, but like Davis, Jefferson Davis went there, Sherman, Grant, Lee, all these greats, and they venerate Sherman, because he helped win the war, but Sherman was evil. Sherman was evil, and he was okay with killing innocent people. And they're like, he freed the slaves. Well, he killed a lot of freed slaves. He didn't personally kill them, but this is just one of those weird things in history, where it's like a weird synchronicity. There was, I think he was a general, or a major general, but he was Union, okay? Working under Sherman, serving under Sherman as part of the March to the Sea. So as they're burning down the South, marching through Georgia. And this general's name, if he was a general, this Union soldier serving under Sherman was named Jefferson Davis. What are the odds? And Jefferson, the Union's Jefferson Davis, was really upset that a lot of freed slaves were following him on the march to the sea. It was giving up their location, and understandably, I get that. Like, you're trying to fight a war, you've got all this parade of horses and artillery, and then all these freed slaves. But like, you're supposed to be the people, who in the future will be like, oh, they freed the slaves. The Union's Jefferson Davis just killed them all. They helped drown them and shoot them. You can look it up, and I forget the name of it. Lincoln had to get involved. Sherman was like, yeah, okay, whatever. But Lincoln ended up giving a lot of land to, I think, relatives of them, of other freed slaves. It's a pretty crazy event, but it's so complex. So like, there's bad people on both sides of that war, and a lot of people in the South, they were just like, just don't invade my home. And the March to the Sea was diabolical. Total war is diabolical. And, it's not the first time it happened. First time it happened on American soil. And Sherman, I like to say, was like our first atom bomb. Maybe the only one, if you don't believe in atom bombs. It's maybe the only firebombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But anyway, that's what he did. He totally torched the South. And there were a lot of people who, as a part of the March to the Sea, took advantage of that and destroyed everything. And there were people who were like marauders who said, hey, we're going to pretend to be a part of the March to the Sea, and then we're going to invade and rape and kill and pillage all this stuff. Terrible, terrible, terrible. But imagine all that happening. Go back a few years now, when did Grant die? Ulysses is also a great name. Great name. When did he die? Okay, he died in 1885. So go back 30 years now, 34 years to the Great Comet, and people watching the sky light up at night for 3 months, and it's so big a shadow is appearing on the ground, and people are preparing. They don't know what they're going to get into. Some people think this war is going to be over quickly, and now mass bloodshed, families torn apart, widows everywhere, limbs severed. As I drive around a lot of the South and in the North, I like visiting old churches and old buildings, and just like, it's crazy to think about the men who came home from seeing some really crazy stuff and the things they built. Like thinking of a church that was built right after the Civil War, or a church that was, I've seen a few of these where a church that was, they began to build it, then it was paused so they can go fight the war, and then whoever came back, whoever survived, went and finished it. It's just crazy history, crazy history. And I love the old hymns from back then. But yeah, by the middle of that August, the comet was no longer visible to the naked eye. But if they used a telescope back then, you could see up until May 1862. So insane stuff, guys. It is just wild times. Wild times. Well, guys, I'm very glad that you spent this time with me today. Space law is important. It's underreported. If you are looking to lay claim to a planet, hit me up. You know where to find me. If you think you want to mine an asteroid, but you don't know how, you're afraid if you do it, someone's going to come after you. NASA's going to say, we own that, not you. I got you covered, And if you've had debris from space fall through your roof, hit your car, hopefully not hit you, but if it has, please do find me. I understand the space treaties. I know the convention. I'm a 7th generation space lawyer, and I'll get you your money. And we'll take down NASA while we do it. NASA has got to go. Got to be held accountable, okay? It's just a rogue agency that must be held accountable. And here at Cashman and Cashman Space Law, that's what we plan to do. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a blessed night. I'll see you all tomorrow.